as a kind of thing to consider, could be a point to originate any kind of creative work, whether it's art or design, whether it's textiles, whether it's ceramics, whether it's painting, because you're thinking about your preferences, the things that you're interested in, the things that you're less interested in. Now, you might say, would I make art or design about the things I don't like? Well, equally, these are just important. These are the important issues. They might be considered, you know, a problem, something that you want to solve, or something that you want to kind of encounter. Equally, the things that you like, I mean, they're kind of easy to make art about, aren't they? Or to make design about. You know, so if you're interested in food, oh, I'm going to design a new food packaging, I'm going to design a new kind of way to create utensils, I'm going to create new plates. So either of those things are actually a starting point to be creative. What happens when you put them together? Right, this is your next task. I want you to figure out one way you can combine one of the things you don't like doing while you're doing the thing you do like doing. See if you can do that. Doing the chores at home, the laundry, washing, and then doing sport and exercise and the great outdoors. So through a kind of series of kind of concept development ideas, she came up with lots of ideas, but these was just some of them she developed. So as you can probably see, these are made out of neoprene, so wetsuit fabrics, and they've got waterproof zips that they use on deep sea diving suits. So this bag here, before you go off jogging, you put your laundry in it and a litre of water. There's a pocket inside which you put another litre of water, and you go off on a 5-mile jog wash cycle. And then when you get to your destination, and I've lost a slide, have you ever seen that game with a ball where you've got two handles and you pull it and the ball goes along the string? She had one of those, and you find somebody and you kind of wring out your washing by this ball going backwards and forwards. Then you put your washing back in the bag, you open this other zip, the clean water goes in, and you jog back home on a 5-mile rinse cycle. These are for playing ball, to wash your socks when you're camping. So all of her new kind of ideas were to kind of incorporate this task that she really disliked, but while she was doing things that she liked. So, you know, you all think about that with your two lists. I mean, this was designing objects. It doesn't necessarily need to be about designing objects. It might actually be about making art. It might be about solving problems. Or it might not be about a problem. You know, if we only had to design because there was a problem, in a kind of utopian world, we'd stop designing because everything would be solved. But actually, sometimes when there's an opportunity to create, to generate things, to move ideas forward, even when there's not a problem, that's equally important for our existence. To actually develop things, to actually change them, and to actually develop them into something that perhaps might be new. Because we're still evolving, aren't we? We've not stood still. We're still actually inventing. We're still making art about different things, new things, designing new things. Part of my work is I work at Goldsmiths, but I also work at UCL, and I have an honorary role there. I'm the director of making at the Institute of Making. So before I was an academic, I was an artist and a designer, and I did lots and lots of making. Unfortunately, these days I don't get to make as much as I'd like. I like to put my overall on though, just to look like I'm kind of about to start something. But what I was going to do is tell you a little story about a material. So you probably might know what this is. If I show it you, What is it? Putty. Very good, silly putty. And do you know kind of when it originated? In a Marvel comic, it probably would be an accident. But it was actually invented by a PhD student in the 40s, 50s in America. Let me see if I can reach you. Oh! And it was somebody who was studying thixotropic fluids or non-Newtonian fluids. And the great thing about silly putty is it's a material that's both a liquid. So if we were to just let this kind of carry on kind of falling, it would run like a fluid. But as you know, if you move it very quickly, it just snaps, so it breaks. And the reason being, what you've done there is you've speeded up the kind of particles. And when the patent on this material ran out, they just put it up for sale, and the person who bought it was somebody who ran a kind of joke shop, and it just became a toy. So it kind of went out into the market. I had this as a kid, which I got it for collecting bubblegum stickers, bazooka, and I sent off, and I got this in the post, and you could actually pick up bits of comic and transfer, you know, like, because there was a bit of oil in it, and it would pick up comic ink, and you could print that back onto other bits of paper, and it was bouncy, and, you know, it was sticky, and it was kind of good fun. So that has been out on the market as a toy, let's just think, 60, 70, nearly 80 years. And then about 10 or 20 years ago, somebody thought, this has got really exciting properties. Why isn't it used for anything? And they started to think about those properties and sort of discuss them. And then slowly, a designer, some inventors have actually started using it. What do you think it might be used for, given what we've said about it? Yeah. It's taken 80 years for something that was silly putty to suddenly be used in a way that's really quite smart. They've put it into kind of armoured clothing for motorcycling, bulletproof vests, bicycle seats. It's now kind of quite prolific. You will probably not have seen it yet, because what they do is they contain it in a kind of matrix. So you get pads. And I know that it's going to go into football pads. So somebody can come up and really kind of boot you in the shin, and you won't feel it. In fact, some of the lads might have seen this, because my son showed it me. On YouTube, there's these guys like ninjas, and they're kind of obviously wearing these pads in this. And there's this man kind of hitting him with an iron bar, and he's just going, ooh, ooh, ooh. And it obviously doesn't hurt him, because when you hit this equally turns into something like an iron bar. So you're sort of protected. What's quite funny, I think this is funny, the Science Museum in London, they now sell their version of this, intelligent putty, which is kind of like a rebranding or a transformation of the material. I mean, the material's just the same. This comes in sexy black. It's exactly the same material, but, you know, they've renamed it as something that was silly and now is intelligent. But the poor material, actually, it's not really been used in an intelligent way. That's down to you and I. You know, we're the kind of creative people. We've got to think of ways to use some of these materials in an intelligent way. This is fantastic material. This is something that I came across quite recently. So this is incredibly strong. I mean, I could get two people to pull this, but I wouldn't really want them to hurt their fingers. But if I just tie it in a little knot, it just breaks. What do you think just happened then? No, I'd like you're trying to understand it. That's a really good thing. You know, never be fearful of not getting the right answer or not working it out, but it pushes against itself. You're really quite close.
Is it so sharp it cut itself?
Again, not quite the right answer, but it is kind of breaking itself in some way. Any other kind of ideas?
The structure of the sort of fibres, the fact that they're sort of bending and sort of
using... the way that if I pull it in this longitudinal way, it's got this incredible strength, but if actually they're folded, they completely shatter. This is actually made of rock. This is basalt. This is replacing fiberglass in the building industries. Now, fiberglass, which is a kind of insulative material, the problem with it is it's when it breaks, the particles become airborne, and if you get them in your lungs, they're really dangerous. There's lots of problems over the kind of 40 or 50 years of using fiberglass as an insulation material. Lots of people get TB and other kind of lung complaints. With this material, because it's a rock, when it shatters, it just kind of drops to the ground. So the particles are not airborne, so it's a much safer and much more environmentally friendly material, much healthier for you. Those of you doing design, you've probably come across materials like this before. So if I hold this really hard, can you see it changes colour? Yeah, have you come across colour changing materials? Anybody? Again, these are called thermochromic pigments. You can buy these, you can buy them, they come in all sorts of different temperature changes. What you're actually seeing, the colour's not changing, the colour is actually disappearing. So the paper below is white, and these pigments, they're kind of like a nano colour pigment. You've probably heard the term nano before, very small. And what they are is when they're flat on the page, they're like this. So they're showing all their colour. But when then you heat them up, they do this. And they all step sideways, and if it wasn't for my belly, you wouldn't see me. And it's the same what's happening with these colours. They're actually just all turning, and what you see is more of the paper than the particle. There's something kind of within some of these materials that is kind of evolving through science, but actually artists and designers are now using these materials. And in fact, they're scientists, they're inventing these materials, and they don't sometimes actually know what to do with them. So if you look up thermochromic pigments, nobody really does anything quite exciting with thermochromic pigment. It's the most poorly used technology out there. So I kind of challenge you all to come up with something interesting. You can buy these online, they're not expensive. There's lots of educational companies that sell them now, and I can send you some websites for things like that.